Welcome to Business Reporter's The Future of Sustainable Packaging campaign. Plastic has bad press nowadays, yet a number of experts claim that thanks to its versatility, energy-efficient production and high degree of recyclability, plastic could actually turn out to be the most sustainable solution for our packaging needs. That is, if, and it's a big if, we can pull off what scientists call closing the loop and create a truly circular economy for plastics. Is it possible? Well, our guest today not only claims that it is, but that the company he represents is doing it day in, day out in a profitable and ethical way. Today, I'll be talking with Lucas van der Schalk from Corplex to get the details. Good morning, Lucas. Let's start then with the multi-million-dollar question. How can we improve the recycling of plastics in the economy? Now, I understand, and please correct my figures here, that just 9% of all plastics are recycled. How can we improve that figure?
First of all, that's correct. 9% is roughly all that's recycled. But I don't want to focus at this moment in time on the recycling because that's not the key. The key here is the way we use our natural resources. So the first thing we have to do is we have to reduce our usage, regardless of what it is. The next thing we have to do is actually go into reuse. So if I've got a package now that's really tight, doesn't waste anything, and I reuse that, I put it a number of times back into a loop, then that is a good use of our resources. And that is the key to having a sustainable planet, a sustainable community to live in, where we use our resources in a manner that is responsible.
Using that closed loop. So can you give us a concrete example of that closed loop with reduce and reuse?
The best example I have for the closed loop and the reducing and reusing is the automotive industry. Automotive industry, they tend to have models for 7 years. And we produce packaging for them, which they will use for 7 years. It's plastic packaging, very light, low CO2 impact. And first of all, what we do is we make a pack. So it's usually a box, and we make sure that box is completely filled with the products that the automotive companies need. A supplier will come, we will develop a product for them with very little air. That'll be shipped to the automotive manufacturer, whether it's Jaguar Land Rover or Volkswagen. They will take all the bits out, put them into their cars, then that box is collapsed. So now instead of being one high, we can actually stock 4 boxes in one go. And then that comes back to the supplier and they reuse it, fill it up again, they open it up, fill it up again, send it back to the customer, and then it continues in this loop for 7 years. The nice thing about that, of course, is because we collapse it, for every 4 journeys out, we have 1 journey back. Now, on average, that reduces the CO2 impact by about 300 tons for one product. Now, if you think that there's tens of thousands of products go into a car, that's a lot of CO2 saved.
So what's the range of products then that you can do that with today?
So we can do that for almost anything. So the automotive industry example I've given you. The other one that we have, again, this is about reducing. We make layer pads for bottles. So glass bottles that get shipped off to a beer company or a wine business, they get compacted very closely together so that, again, they're very well fitted into truck. They have plastic layer pads so that we don't have elements dropping into the bottles. And they're shipped very compactly to the customers. They take the bottles, those layer pads are sent back to their supplier. The supplier uses those layer pads. We'll take them back once they've served their useful life. We will grind them up, make new layer pads, and it starts all over again. One example. Another example, which was one of my favorite ones, for the Olympics in London in 2012, we did all of the signage. And at the end of the Olympics, we took all of the signs back, recycled them, ground them up, made them into new signs, which then go on the side of buses, which again, after their useful life is finished, we'll take them again and make them into new ones.
Let's talk about money. We keep hearing about the tough economics of reuse. How can you do this? What is your recipe for doing this with a profit?
So the key for us is to be able to reuse the material time and time again. So what we tend to focus on is a single type of material. All of our products is generally made out of polypropylene, which means that the signs that I put on the side of the bus, I can take those, I can grind those up, recycle them, and make them into a layer pad. And then once we finish with the layer pad, we can take them and we make them into a package which we send to the automotive customers. And we can keep moving that around. And so the single material element is key. Plastic is brilliant for reuse, brilliant for recycle, as long as it stays pure. As soon as that purity goes, then we're into trouble.
Okay, I'm going to play the role of this sceptical CEO of a delivery firm. I'm only interested in profit. So does your solution save me money?
Absolutely. Because first of all, we use the resources that you have very efficiently. So the trucks are cubed out, and we make sure that actually the return journeys are less than they would be otherwise if you used any other packaging. The other thing that our packages do, particularly because if we have in a closed loop system, you don't have to worry about it coming back. It comes back automatically. You don't have to plan it, so you need less people to plan it. That in itself makes it very useful for saving all elements of money. And when I talk about money, it's not just the material part of it, it's the less obvious ones, the labor you put into it, the amount of time you spend worrying about or getting it back. And all of those elements are massive drivers to reducing your costs.
Okay, flip reverse that. My company, my customers are far more interested in saving the planet. So therefore, why not just ditch plastic altogether and opt for paper?
Well, first of all, plastic is a material that is incredibly light and can be reused many, many times. However, when we start comparing plastic and paper, this is all about the way we work with plastic and paper, the way we use it after its life. And the same problems exist for both of those. So if we start looking at paper, the reuse and the recycle of paper, reuse is first of all not possible, so it's only used once, and the recycling of paper is incredibly energy inefficient. It creates a lot of CO2 because it gets moved around and just gets used once. The plastics, on the other hand, can be used many, many times because they are robust. They have the same implications as paper in terms of CO2. They're both light, but the reuse of it is something that's key. The other thing that we have to focus on, particularly on the plastic element, is the ability to recover it. And I think that's partly the issue that we have today in the general usage of one-way plastics, is it's easy to recover, but it's very difficult to recover something that's pure that can then be used again at a later stage.
How optimistic are you that we are going to adopt the solutions that you're advocating? What will it take? Is it policy? Is it mindset? Is it more practical than that? When will we get a closed loop economy for plastics?
It's a very good question. And I think we have to distinguish between different types of plastics in terms of the one-way and the multi-way plastics. We are already developing a number of actual real-life examples and concepts that work in industry. What we tend to all look at, and when we look at plastics, are the things we see day to day are one-way use plastics. That concept needs policy and it needs governments to drive some homogeneous attack on the way we work and deal with our products as humans. Corplex as a business has a number of these closed loop systems already in place. What we aim to do is be a pilot for the rest of those. And if we can actually take our small microcosm of success and expand that out to the greater business, then to me, that's when business and the economy as a whole, as well as the environment, become one closed loop system.
Lucas van der Schalk, thank you so much.
My pleasure.